Let's bring in Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire and host of the Ben Shapiro Show podcast, which I listen to every day. Ben, I want to talk to you about this bill that the president signed today, but just before the show started, the Congressional Budget Office put out this number. They are estimating a 12% drop in GDP for this quarter, 40% annualized, and federal debt to exceed GDP by the end of the year. And I know these are things you think about a lot and maybe get your take on the president signing this bill, but what happens on the other end of it?
I mean, that is the big question, because the underlying market fundamentals have changed. I mean, the fact is that you can tell people that they ought to stop being in lockdown, and still their consumer behavior is going to change fairly radically. I think it's going to be a while before we have a therapeutic treatment that lowers the risk of this thing. If you're above the age of 60, if you have pre-existing conditions, and that describes a large percentage of the population, you're just not going to be eating in a restaurant right next to somebody for a long time. You're not going to be going to a sporting event for a long time. You're probably not going to be in a retail establishment that's highly crowded for a very long time. And that means that actually it's more important, not less important, to get people back to work so that we can see how the markets play all of this out, so we can see which areas of the economy are going to grow in sort of the new demand world. And people can move from jobs that no longer exist to jobs that will exist, because the economy will move in a different direction. It's just this is a sudden shock. It's going to take a while for the economy to recover. It's not going to be a V-shaped recovery.
What do you think about the tension between the desire to reopen and then on the other side of it, some people, including the media, looking out at them and saying, it's too soon, don't be foolish, and you're having this real, almost a cultural divide?
Well, I think that a large part of what's happening here is that Americans do understand that, or they should understand, that there is no situation in which everybody is absolutely safe, where the threat comes to an end, where people go back to work and now they can go without masks, without social distancing, and the risk level is what it was before any of this happened. And I think that needs to be constantly reinforced. I also think that it's important for politicians not to play the ridiculous game where they suggest that if only we save a single life, then any policy is justified. That's the last refuge of the political scoundrel. Policymaking is always about weighing competing values and weighing exactly the cost to not only human liberty, but to human prosperity, the number of lives ruined, not just the number of lives lost, what it looks like when you have 30 million people suddenly out of work. These are serious concerns, and only unserious people suggest that any policy that is going to be taken is not going to have costs and risks. Single factor analysis here is the enemy of good sense. And that's why Andrew Cuomo is going to end up opening up parts of New York, understanding that the risk still exists for a lot of people. I mean, that's just going to happen. The same thing will happen in Illinois. The same thing will happen in California. The question is how these governors assess that risk and exactly what the current lockdown measures are designed to do. I think that very often the media do a poor job explaining when they said flatten the curve. That was designed to prevent the capacity of the healthcare system from being exceeded. It was not designed to prevent everybody from getting this in the first place. That just is not going to happen. The testing regimens that people are talking about, those are designed to identify hotspots to prevent spikes that, again, prevent the healthcare system from being overwhelmed. They're not designed to prevent huge numbers of people from getting this over a long period of time. Understanding that allows people to be more sane in their risk assessment and to be more rational about what exactly society is going to look like coming out of this, because I think a too rosy and optimistic picture of how safe we're going to be when this ends is a danger. And I think similarly, a too pessimistic version of what this looks like is also going to be a danger.
There's also this problem of that if you reopen and people are expected to go back to work, but the child care centers and the schools are still closed, how are parents supposed to make those decisions? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And again, I think that in the end, we live in a republic. Individual citizens are going to have to make decisions that don't threaten other people, but that allow them to live their lives in a way that they feel comfortable with. And that risk assessment is going to vary based on person. In a free country, we're all going to have to do that. And to pretend otherwise is simply just political lying.
Ben Shapiro, thank you. Say hello to your family and Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you
thanks so much.
soon again. Thank you.